14th of November 2022. This Skidmark, I'm going to talk about something that I believe many people don't pay attention to or are not aware of. And you must forgive me if this one is a mixture of Afrikaans and English. I am a type of guy that I've been brought up in a family where my grandparents and my parents had zero tolerance for disrespectful conduct. Some of my most impressive hidings was because of disrespect. And there was never any tolerance for it from my parents or my grandparents. And I can remember days where my grandma whopped me with a wooden spoon over the head because I talked disrespectful to one of my nephews or nieces, where I was disrespectful to the servants that were working on the farm and in the house. So respect for me is something that must be not negotiable. And I must admit, there are people for which you can lose respect, but that does not mean automatically you can disrespect them, because disrespecting people says more about you than about them. And unfortunately, we are living in a time, in an age, and days where the principle of respect has disappeared. And it has deteriorated to such a point that there are millions of people that has even lost their own self-respect. If you see the things that they put on TikTok, and you see the things they post on Facebook and Twitter and all the social media, this is unbelievable. Young girls posting nude photographs and suggestive photographs of themselves on social media, and you see these guys that post photographs of themselves in all sorts of drag dressing and makeup and things like that. And then there is this gender-confused fraternity that it is absolutely shocking, the shit they can post. And what is, to me, extremely disturbing is that it seems like the general population and the general media accepts that type of conduct. And in many instances, that conduct is actually promoted. If you look at what's going on in that Biden White House, you must just look at the people that is in his staff and then ask yourself, what are the values that are respected in that White House? For me, there's no values. Nothing is off the table. Everything goes. And that is where the big problem is with the West and Russia. In Russia, you're sitting with a president that is, first of all, always respectful when he interacts with people. Always. And when you see him move among the crowds and so, it is always with great respect. And something that caught my eye many times is the amount of, I don't know how to put it, but the way that Putin reacts to small children. He makes time for it. And he sits on his haunches and he listens to what they are saying. Not like that Biden that snuffs their hair and touch them inappropriately and shit like. You have to agree that that conduct that is smeared all over the social media of Biden around children That is very inappropriate. And in my days as a child, as a youngster, a man like that, my dad would not let him come near one of us, and if he should get near to us, the chances of him winding up on his face in the floor was 99.8%. But unfortunately, the people of the society are accepting this misconduct. They're just accepting it. And many of them make jokes about it. But it's fucking serious shit, this. Good values is what made successful nations. Good values. But we've reached a point that the West is morally bankrupt. You just have to look at the shit around the gender confusions, and you'll have to agree that morality is out of the door. And that is sad for all of us. And here in South Africa, my own country, there's a hell of a large proportion white Afrikaner people that doesn't have a single good word to say about Russia or about Putin. And I maintain that it is because they're uninformed. And then you must add with it the hell of a lot of brainwashing that we were subjected to as youngsters about the red danger, the rooi gevaar. Almal van ons ken daai rooi gevaar storie. Maar ek gaan vanaand nou 'n paar goedjies wys oor Putin, en dan moet jy mooi dink daaroor. En miskien aan die einde van hierdie video het jy 'n ondersiening van die. I'm going to begin with this post by Valeria. Putin. On solution to the problem, the USA should stop lecturing countries. All economic and security problems of the EU will be resolved. EU needs Russia, not Ukraine, for its security and prosperity. Russia have never destroyed any country in the world, never steal from poor countries. Now, you should listen to what he says and think about it. Because if you are a person of character, you will understand what he is saying there. I don't care whether you're an American or you're an Englishman or you're a Dutchman or a German or a South African or what. If you are an intelligent, educated person, what he says here makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of truth in it. And then there's this. Their hegemony means stagnation for the rest of the world and for the entire civilization. It means obscurantism, cancellation of culture, and new liberal totalitarianism. The US, the EU, and NATO have themselves fallen into an economic trap. And now, what is wrong with what he is saying there? That is the truth. And if you don't agree, put it in the comments at the bottom. And then there was this one. Russia will continue to create a more democratic and just world where rights of all peoples are guaranteed. Mankind's cultural and civilizational diversity is preserved. EU politicians have landed a heavy blow on their economies. They did it themselves with their own hands. And it is important to take note of what he says. Mankind's cultural and civilizational diversity is preserved. What does the US say? No, do as we say or we bomb you. And this was a fairly potent message from Putin. The United States and its vassals grossly interfere in the internal affairs of sovereign states by staging provocations, organizing coups, or inciting civil wars. By threats, blackmail, and pressure, They are trying to force independent states to submit to their will and follow rules that are alien to them. This is being done with just one aim in view, which is to preserve their domination. And how true is that? In the name of bringing democracy, the West and the US specifically, plus NATO, has blown Libya to smithereens. They did the same to Iraq, they did the same to Afghanistan, they did the same to Yemen, they did the same to Syria, and that is what they do. They bomb people into smithereens because they don't like the type of government those people want. Here in South Africa, my own country was fucked up with democracy. Fucked up. There's no other word for it. Democracy fucked this country up. And that's the end of the story. Now listen to this from Putin. Under the UN World Food Programme, which implies assistance to the neediest countries, only 2 ships were loaded. Let me emphasize, only 2 out of 87. And they exported 60,000 tons of food out of 2 million tons. This is only 3% that are sent to developing countries. The rest went to the EU. And that was that grain deal that they made to get the grain out. I don't know what to say. The West is fucking evil. Then this, very important. Putin warns countries that mock history and tear down monuments honoring the Soviet sacrifice in World War II. We remember our ancestors, the World War II frontline soldiers and their comrades in arms, as well as the tough homeland workers, homefront workers. I find it absolutely disgusting that Europeans are destroying statues and art pieces and memorials. The Russian soldiers paid with their blood for Europe to be free from the Nazis. And this is how you Europeans are rewarding him. You have no respect. I watched on the 9th of May when in Russia they had that marches for the immortals. Thousands of people walking the streets of cities in Russia. Thousands. And every person carries a photograph of an ancestor that was killed in World War II. And we're sitting in 2022, and you Europeans, when last did you have a big memorial service for your ancestors? And I'm talking about my own country, South Africa as well. You can learn a lot from the Russians. And then this from Putin. Many European countries today continue to act as colonizers, exactly as they have been doing in previous decades and centuries. Developing countries have simply been cheated yet again and continue to be cheated. And then the West is surprised that the rest of the world is gravitating towards Russia. There, Putin's words. And it's all about respect. Putin, and by definition Russia, respects the countries that they deal with. They do trade deals, and it's about the trade deal, and they do not dictate to that country about its internal affairs. That is the reason. And the same counts for China. That is why BRICS is so popular, because of respect. Respect. But the Europeans and the Americans don't know the meaning of the word respect. That is the thing. Look at that representative of the US at the United Nations. She goes to North and East Africa. And what does she do when she gets there? She tells that people, that countries, if you trade with Russia, the US will sanction you. Because that is what they can do. Force and threaten. But I've got news for them. The hourglass is running empty. Hulle tyd is verby. Hulle gaan op hulle moer kry. Hulle kan dit nog net nie insien nie. Hulle dink, hulle kan Rusland en China gelyk aanvat. Hulle sal hulle gat sien teen enige een van daai twee afsonderlik. Maar die bliksems, hulle sal nie twyfel om 'n atoombom te gooi nie. Hulle sal die nukleerpyle skiet. Want Amerika is die enigste land in die wêreld wat stede gebom het met atoombomme. Geen ander land wat kernwapens het dit al ooit gebruik nie. Net Amerika. Maar hulle het nie respek vir ander lande nie. Hulle het nie respek vir ander kulture nie. Kyk wat het hulle in hulle eie land gedoen. Hulle het die rooi heide fucking uitgeroei. Dis wat hulle gedoen het. En dan wil hulle bekke fucking rek oor menseregte. Bliksems. Ons moet miskien dieselfde shit hier gedoen het. And here, this was to me, we all know about that Samarkand meeting, and it was a major important meeting. But listen to this. Before leaving Samarkand, Vladimir Putin thanked all the staff of the Samarkand Regency Hotel, where he and the entire Russian delegation were hosted during the SCO summit, for their hospitality and professionalism. The Russian president was applauded. And now let's get to the final part of this. Putin signed Russia's 17 traditional values into law. And you need to listen carefully to this. I did handle it in one of my Skidmarks as well. Here is the now official list of Russia's traditional values. Life, dignity, human rights and freedoms, patriotism, civic consciousness, serving the motherland and taking responsibility for its destiny, high moral ideals, solid family ties, constructive labor, priority of the spiritual over the material, humanism, compassion, justice, collectivism, mutual help and respect, history, historical memory and the continuity of generations, unity for Russia's people. Now, if you are a decent person, what can you differ from what Putin has signed into law? Orthodox Christianity has a special role in forming Russia's traditional values. Although the President's decree acknowledges inputs made by all of the country's main religions, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism and other religions, the document explains that unfriendly countries, corporations and terrorists can harm Russia's traditional values by replacing them with their own. And then I want to get to the end of my story here. In Russia, it is illegal to promote this gender-confused LGBTQX plus content. Kak, that shit is illegal in Russia. You do that, you promote that, you are in jail. You talk to children about that, you are in jail and you will most probably never come out there because they will come and fetch you in a casket there because the other inmates will fuck you up. That is the difference between Russia and the West. Good, decent values. And I'm gonna leave you with this shit. Born a boy but living as a girl since the age of 4, Eastern Cape's Quencha, Titi, is said to possibly become the first trans woman to go to the mountain to undergo circumcision, the traditional rite of passage to manhood. En ek hoop daai toordokter daar in die bos kap sy hele piel af in plaas van net die voorskien. Sleg ding. En kyk nou hierdie kak. British Airways to allow make-up and purses. Wat 'n fuck is dit? En dan hierdie shit. Hierdie ding met 'n voël wen 'n beauty contest. Dis genoeg om van naar te word. The West should be ashamed of where they've gone. Don't tell me this cock about tolerance. If you tolerate shit, you will stink yourself. There's no such thing as tolerating shit. You don't tolerate shit. And this is where, this is all symptoms of why the Western Empire is doomed and will not survive. They are self-destructing. And now I've lost my temper and I made a promise to myself, I will not do it. Maar in elk geval, dis nou maar wat ek is 'n boerseun, maar ek sê weer, dink mooi hieroor, Dit klink mos vir my of Rusland 'n plek is waar Afrikaners hulle self goed sal tuisvind. En op daai punt, klap maar 'n like, klap 'n subscribe, en share die ding. Dis moer belangrik, boys. Druk daar op die share button onder in die video en share hom. Hoe meer kere jy dit doen, hoe meer tel YouTube hom op en versprei die ding vir my. Baie dankie vir julle ondersteuning, and good night from a dark Africa.